Hi Design Cutters, my name is Joanna Fallon, I'm a graphic designer and today we're going to be creating a logo for a fictional portable speaker company using the Aestetico Font Family by Latinotype. We're going to be looking at Aestetico today, which is a modern sans serif font with lots of different styles, weights, language support, and it's a really nice font that's got a very classic look to it. So we're going to look a little bit into the thought and design process behind coming up with this logo design for our fictional brand and client Armadillo. Before we jump into that, let's take a quick look at the typeface itself. I'm on the Design Cuts product page and as you can see it's a very smart looking typeface. And the really nice thing about this is that it comes in 3 different styles or families, which means that there are slight differences in style, giving each family its own character, while still maintaining the same underlying structure. And this is great because you can combine the different font families and different weights for visual interest, but it takes the guesswork out of knowing which typefaces are going to sit well together because they're all from the same set. You know that they're all going to complement each other really well. And you can see a little bit more here, some of the differences and little style variations. The really nice thing about this as well is that it's got, as you can see, it's got lots of language support, so it doesn't matter where in the world you are or where in the world your clients are, hopefully this can still be very useful to you. Going back to our logo design, let's say we've been approached by Armadillo, a new portable speaker brand. Now before we start thinking about anything like colours, shapes, typefaces, what we need to establish is the brand space or brand positioning. In other words, how is this brand different from its competitors and where or how it will sit in their target market's minds. In order to do this, we as designers need to understand what their customers want, what the brand is offering and how their competitors are positioning themselves. We then need to take this information and encapsulate it into a visual representation that will resonate with their target market, reflects the brand's offering and is different from their competitors. A great way to establish this is to ask a brand how they would summarise themselves in 3 words. So let's ask our client Armadillo. And they've said adventurous, built to last and approachable. So this is great. We've established that they're an outdoor speaker brand and perhaps their target market is more outdoorsy types who want durable speakers that are going to last as they take them on their many, many adventures. And the approachable suggests that they just want to be able to draw people in. They don't want people to feel that they're overly exclusive. We also need to find out who are their main competitors. So unsurprisingly, we've got some big speaker and audio brands here. We've got Sony, Sonos, Sanka, Sennheiser and Bang & Olufsen, all who make very nice speakers, very well established, all names people have heard of. To get a better idea of the competition and how they're positioning themselves, let's take a look at their logos. You've probably spotted that the big similarity between all of these is that they're all very heavily type-based. It's like minimal to no sort of icons and they're all uppercase. So to borrow a little bit of the brand equity from these existing well-established logos, we probably want to be thinking along the lines of, okay, we want something that's type-based and quite possibly all uppercase as well. And we want to do this so that in people's minds, it's very easy to associate the Armadillo logo with existing speaker and audio brand logos. What we do need to take into consideration though, is that Armadillo said that they are quite outdoorsy and perhaps their target market are more, the people who are going hiking, biking, surfing, climbing, they're going on adventure, they're outside a lot and they want tough portable speakers. So let's have a look at some more outdoorsy brands and see what their logos look like. Again, there's a lot of type-based logos here, but one of the key things that stand out to me is that there's a bit more inclusion of lowercase, and the typeface tends to be, looks a lot chunkier and thicker, which suggests kind of toughness and ruggedness and durability, which is all stuff that you want for something that's going to be withstanding all kinds of outdoor weather conditions, especially if you're in the UK. So we want to think about borrowing some of the visual elements from these logos as well. So we want people to see the logo and think it doesn't look too out of place amongst some more outdoorsy adventure type logos, but it also doesn't look out of place amongst these audio and speaker logos as well. And now for the fun part, which is coming up with some visual ideas. Since we've established now what Armadillo's brand position is, we can start looking at some rather obvious visual cues, such as an armadillo and a speaker. However, we also know that armadillos do this. Now, I don't know if you're thinking what I'm thinking, but that kind of looks like it would fit very well on the speaker. The way we're going with this is the scales of the armadillo look a little bit like those of a speaker grill. So I've started to sketch out some quick ideas of how this might look visually. In an ideal world, you might have months to develop a logo concept and try lots of different ideas. We've got fairly limited time with this video, so we've kind of done this very quickly, and I started sketching out little armadillos, its little face, its little tail, and I was thinking for the approachability aspect, having a little face on something always looks quite friendly and fun, but in this case it might start to look a little bit childish, and as we're trying to compete against some high-end speaker brands as well, we want it to look quite grown up and classic. It seemed best to lose like the little ears and the little eyes. What we have done though is look a little bit at the simplifying the shape of the armadillo. So you can see we've got the two lines across here, we've got the shapes, these like little teardrop shapes with a head and a tail, and they're very nice to borrow from because they can be simplified very easily. So we've come up with this design here, which is a circle, which in my mind has the speaker grill in the background and these two little icons to kind of represent more the armadillo-y aspect of it. And I really hope the word armadillo-y takes off as a description. What we've then done is take that initial sketch, and I've done it in Illustrator to vectorize it, clean up the lines, and just make it a lot neater. It still looks a little bit too icon heavy, which doesn't really tie in with the audio logos that we saw before. Now, although a lot of the audio brands didn't really use icons, as a new and not very established brand, it might be quite beneficial for Armadillo to have some kind of icon in their logo design initially, just to strengthen their visual recognition. And hopefully as they get more established and more recognized, they can drop the icon and just use the text. With that in mind, we wanted to keep an icon but keep it a little bit more subtle and smaller. We've stripped this back to just the two little shapes in the middle, so the head and the tail, and we've switched them around to echo the side of the A, so it just sits a little bit neater next to the word. The next part is deciding on which typeface to use. Now, as we saw with the Aestetico Font Family, there's quite a lot to choose from. We've got all the different styles and we've got the different weights, which gives us a lot of options and possibilities. For the final design here, I decided on using the Aestetico Informal Black with lowercase, and that echoes a little bit more the outdoor brands. I also tried using it all in uppercase, but it doesn't look quite right. It just looks a little bit too rigid and angular and not very fun and approachable, which was one of the things that the brand wanted. Having it in the lowercase, I think, helps position it within the more outdoors market and makes it look quite approachable and friendly. And also, if we look at our Armadillo reference, the shapes of the tops of the letters, the roundness, the lines going down, visually look a little bit like an armadillo as well, in a very abstract format. You've got these curves, you've got these lines. In the lowercase, you get more of the curves and the lines as well. The font weight was also a really important thing to consider. We want it to look tough and durable, therefore a thicker typeface works well, as we saw in some of the outdoors logos. If we look at the same logo in the thin version and the regular version, it still looks nice, but it doesn't really scream tough and outdoorsy and durable. It looks a bit too delicate, I think, for what the brand conveys. As I mentioned earlier in the video, because this set has a few different styles and lots of different weights, it makes it very easy to combine the different families for a bit of visual interest whilst they still complement each other. I've used that principle here. So we've got the Armadillo is written in the Aestetico Informal Black, and the tagline's been written in Aestetico Standard in the lightweight, and that creates a nice contrast. And that's perfect for the tagline because the lighter weight helps to establish kind of a text informational hierarchy. We know that's kind of secondary to the main logo because it's bigger and thicker and it stands out more. And although most logos don't have a tagline, because Armadillo are just starting out, it's probably quite useful for them to have something there just so people know exactly who they are and what they do. Unlike the icon, as they get more established, they can probably lose that as time goes on and they become better known. If we go back to our original logo references then, to get an idea of the brand positioning we want for Armadillo, we said that we wanted them to kind of sit somewhere in the middle of these groups in people's minds. And hopefully we've achieved that. It doesn't look out of place amongst the audio logos, nor does it look too out of place amongst some of the more outdoors ones. So ideally when people see this logo, they think that looks a bit like an outdoors brand that I might be familiar with. It also looks a little bit like an audio brand that I might be familiar with. And that's because we borrowed some of the brand equity, such as using a very type-focused design, which both these groups use. A nice thing to do when presenting logos as well is to usually mock up some kind of context for them. So in this case, we've used a little mock-up of a promotional advert, and you can see we've got our logo in the corner. We've used Aestetico for the text, paragraph text as well. This is fantastic for branding projects because you've got the whole typeset to use in publications and text as well, not just for the logo. So everything you do in the way that you're presenting the brand and the logo, it will all be cohesive, it'll all match stylistically, and it'll all look very polished and together. And going back to informational hierarchy, we've gone back to using the light typeface here for the literal small print, which is just covering our legal back saying that Armadillo is a fictional brand. It doesn't actually exist or make speakers, so all images are for illustrative uses only. And that should keep everyone's solicitors happy. And there we have it. I hope that's been useful for you. It's a very condensed insight into the logo design process and things you might want to consider, but also showing how quite a decent typeface set can be used really effectively in branding, from everything from the logo to all the support material, just having all the elements to play with, knowing that they will all work together to create that strong, cohesive look, which is so vital for branding. And it's just a really nice typeface generally. I can see myself using this just for general paragraph writing to add a little bit more character and flair to your sort of default sans serifs and look like you just put a little bit more thought and care into something, which I think is what we all strive for as designers.